Hey guys, it's me Kenya and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have a book review and it's the book called A Mercy. It's a novel and it's written by Toni Morrison. So yes, this book was published in 2008 and it's a national bestseller. And this is a historical fiction book and it is about 196 pages long. This book basically breaks down the structure of what slavery was like in the U.S. like back in the day. Now, you hear of slavery, but you don't really think of, you just think of like slaves on a farm getting whooped by a master. Well, let me speak for myself. That's what I think of when I think of slavery. I don't think of, settlers and how they got here, other white people that are living here that weren't slave owners, native. You don't really think about so many other things when you hear about slavery. And I feel like this book does a good job at breaking it down. Even though it's a fiction book, it's historical fiction and it's based on like true events. Like in her book, she has how, the main character Jacob Vark came from Europe. Where did he come from? I'm not sure exactly which country he came from in Europe to the US and how he settles. Then he was like this poor farmer, and then he had like a mail order bride. He paid some money and a girl came to meet him here in the US and he married her. And basically the setting of this book was in Virginia. And so basically, yes, so not all like, there weren't like huge plantations all over the place. And he was married to a woman and she couldn't really bear children. Her children kept dying and then her son died in a freak accident. It was crazy. So to settle a debt, a plantation owner gave him a slave. Then there was a Native American girl in there that, was also part of the Jacob Vark household. Her whole family died and she was the only one left alive because of a smallpox outbreak. So she threw that little sprinkle of history of smallpox in there. Then, they went on a walk, Florence and the native girl, and ran into some like Quakers, I believe they were, who was threatening them, telling them that they were witch. So like the whole Salem witch trial was thrown in there. And then there was a free slave, because we don't ever really talk about like the free slaves that were basically lived in the South during slavery. Now, back in the day, over a centuries ago, Africans were known for like iron working, like, ornate, like, iron designs. I'm trying to find the right word to say it. So like all these mansions and plantations that were being built, all those cast iron gates and the iron gates that were like tall and like the iron on the doors, these, big fancy doors you pull open, the latches, like, a lot of Africans were big on making those. So this character was from, his family was known for, iron welding. This is what I'm trying to say. And he was assisting Jacob Vark with this building of this huge house that he was building. And she basically touches on like the conflict between the indentured servants and, free black slaves. Because here it is, this is free black slave and he's directing these indentured servants, white indentured servants on, do this, put this here, put this here, put this here. He's like delegating all these assignments. And it's kind of, emasculate isn't the right word. It's kind of degrading to them because here it is, they're indentured servants, slash the overseers. We'll get into that in a minute. And they got to take orders or, they're listening to delegations from a black man. So she basically put that out in the book. Like, there was free slaves. And basically indentured servants were, of course, contracted, brought in from Europe. They owed debts. They had to serve their, debt. So they were working for these plantation owners. And then they were made to be overseers. And basically, this is where the invention of race came into play. Basically, an indentured servant and the slaves, essentially work on the same farm. But slaves and indentured servants most likely outnumber, the plantation owners, the family, like everybody else that are free on the farm. So to keep the slaves and indentured servants from getting together and rebelling and, shutting stuff down, what they do is they have the indentured servants as overseers in this way, it's like, oh, you're white, basically, like you're a little bit better, like, you know, they're still slaves, even though they're still doing the same thing. They're just like, you know, giving them this sort of title and making them feel like their white skin is privilege. And that's where the whole, I feel like, term white privilege comes from, because it's like, you're white, we're gonna give you some more privilege. So they use at this moment like their white privilege to feel like they were really superior than the slaves, when obviously they were not. So I feel like Toni Morrison did a good job, like, just sprinkling so many different things into the book about, like, you know, what was going on during slavery. And of course, like, the Spaniards had the huge plantations, and, you know, Jacob Vark, he was Anglo-Dutch. According to the back of the book, it says he was an Anglo-Dutch trader and adventurer with a small holding in the harsh north. Florence is from Maryland, and then, yeah, she's originally from Maryland. And then, you know, it's like a coming of age story, I want to say. Is that the right term I'm trying to say, y'all? If not, let me know in the comment section. Like, it starts when she was younger and with her mom and how she left, and it goes to, the story follows her into adulthood, and then she meets this blacksmith who's a free slave, who's into the iron welding, and he's free, she's a slave. And then it's the story of how does a free man and a slave, like, you know, how do they have a happily ever after, because Jacob still owns this woman, this girl, you know, and woman at the time. Like, what do they do? He just can't take her. Well, she can run away, but, you know. And then Jacob ends up dying, and then, you know, everything falls apart. Like, so another thing that I wanted to point out is the desire to basically have the American dream. Once Jacob Vark saw the Spaniards, you know, grandiose mansions and, you know, their materialistic lifestyles, he wanted the same thing for himself, and even died building a mansion that he never even got a chance to live in with his family. His son even died, you know, by freak accident while the mansion was being, you know, built. And, you know, his wife didn't even get a chance to live in there after he died because she didn't want those memories. So yeah, I just feel like, yeah, the American dream was, you know, why so many people came here, was to get wealth, to get rich, to have grandiose houses and huge plantations. So yeah, I feel like once Jacob Vark got here, you know, he saw what everybody else was doing and he wanted it too. Even died trying to get rich, you know. When Jacob came to America, his goal wasn't to actually own slaves. I felt like when he saw how other people were making money from owning slaves, like, he wanted to do it too. Like, he was just doing it just to be down, not because he actually, you know, felt like, you know, black people were beneath him and that, you know, they should serve him like a lot of racist plantation owners, you know. He basically sold his soul for a lifestyle, you know, and that's just really,
my
like,
perspective. Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a page turner. I wouldn't say it's a hard read either. It's something you would want. This is something you would read if you want to, if you're curious about, you know, slavery. I wouldn't even say the South, because this takes place in, like, the, I guess, the mid-Atlantic, Virginia, Maryland area. So yeah, I really learned a lot from reading this book, and I feel like this book right here inspired the book that I'm working on now called The Fall, which I'm in the middle of editing, and we'll talk about that in another video, about all the roadblocks I'm having with that novel. I'm like, this book must be going to be so good when I finally publish it that it's just taking forever, because they always say good things come to those who wait. So maybe this is why I'm having so much trouble with that one. But I digress. So back to this book right here. Read this, especially right now with all the problems with race in America, Donald Trump becoming president, and things of that nature. Basically, everybody in this country is an immigrant. We all got here, you know, via boat. Like, you know, before air travel became popular, everybody came here on a daggone boat. If you weren't brought here in shackles and chains, you came here, you had to be checked in through Ellis Island. And so, yeah. So, with all that I just said, go pick up Toni Morrison. This book is called A Mercy, and it's about $15. Or, you know, that's it. So if you read the book and you have, you know, your little 2 cents to add, or some common themes that caught your attention, put it in the comment section. We'll have like a little book discussion down there, because I love to read you guys' comments. And I will see you in my next video, and have a blessed day and a prosperous 2017. Bye.